Welcome back. Why don't India's Babus ever retire? Even after they complete their official tenure, a large number of IAS and IPS officers are appointed to head some PSU or commission or other government bodies. The question is, should they retire gracefully once and for all, or do they actually bring in much needed expertise?
Is it the perks of a government job, or as some suggest, a favoured appointment that keeps retired Babus from retiring? Or does retirement simply mean an age bar that can prevent a bureaucrat from staying in office, though not away from the corridors of power? Officially, IAS and IPS officers retire when they turn 60. Yet, here's how numbers tell a different story. Besides 11 governors from across the country who have an IPS or IAS background, 7 out of 9 members of the UPSC are former bureaucrats. Again, 7 out of 9 members in the Central Information Commission are former bureaucrats. Even heads of commissions like the SCST, NHRC are former bureaucrats. Not just that, retired bureaucrats hold posts on the boards of public sector undertakings, among others. The appointment of former bureaucrats as heads of committees and commissions is not new, though their numbers have increased over the last few years. But former bureaucrats insist that they shouldn't be painted with the same brush and should be judged on their individual work because they bring a wealth of experience to the table.
Quid pro quo for the
Govt Marwa, former bureaucrat who was also governor of Manipur, says there is a need to evolve a more transparent system so that the entire bureaucracy is not demoralized with these allegations of political patronage.
There should be a selection process. The selection should be done by people whose impartiality and integrity is unimpeachable. Then they will inspire confidence.
Also worrying is the trend of former bureaucrats heading regulatory commissions.
They no longer are as independent or as autonomous as they should be. And because they're headed or manned by retired Babus, these Babus tend to be subservient to political masters.
Power and accountability, two crucial areas where the government is battling with an image of policy paralysis for the last many months. Reason why even appointment of Babus hasn't been far from controversy. In New Delhi, Ketki Angre for NDTV.
So that's our second question tonight. Babus who never retire, are these political favours that they're getting, or is expertise more important? Do tell us what you think. We have a great panel joining us on that tonight. We have Dr. Pramod Deo, who's the chairperson of the Central Electricity Regulatory Commissioner, a former IAS officer who's actually spent, as you said, more than 20 of your 30 years in the IAS working in energy. So you've actually, I think, come to the right place after you retired from the civil service. Wajahat Habibullah, who's the chairperson of the National Commission for Minorities, a former IAS officer who was the Chief Information Commissioner as well before this. Mr. Bharat Bhushan continues to stay with us, and Mr. Govt Marwa, former IPS officer and former governor, also joins us from Delhi tonight. Let me ask Dr. Pramod Deo that, is this a problem? I mean, there may be individuals like yourself. You obviously have expertise in the field of energy. You've gone on to continue to do that. But is there a problem that bureaucrats will now expect that even after they officially retire, that they'll be sent off somewhere or the other?
Well, I will put it this way. As far as I was concerned, at the age of 53, I left. I never knew. I thought after 5 years, 58, I will retire. And I continued as a regulator for 10 years. And I will retire as a regulator next year. So I will almost go up to 64. So I just decided to look at all the electricity regulators, because that's a very large number. Because we had 29 regulators in the state and Central Electricity Regulatory Commission. So if you take that number, when I looked at it, out of 29, I found that 2/3 are IAS chairpersons. Now then, I also said, let me have a look. I know some of my batchmates there, and they have come after 60, after retirement. It's not that they came like that. I decided to make a career choice that I didn't want IAS level. I am an energy expert, so I will go that. And what I found that most of them had worked in energy field. And when it comes to selecting a regulator, there is a Electricity Act under which there is a selection committee. So there is a retired High Court judge.
So they were suited for the job, you're saying?
No, I would say some of them were definitely suited. You can't say that they were not suited this thing.
But let me ask Wajahat Habibullah, because you were the Chief Information Commissioner. Now the RTI Act, and I'm quoting, says that the CIC and Information Commissioners should be people of eminence in public life with a wide knowledge of experience in law, science and technology, social service and so on. But 7 of the 9 members of the Information Commission are former bureaucrats. Of the 29 Chief Information Commissioners in India, including one at the centre, 22 are former IAS officers. Isn't there something wrong with that balance?
Well, you see, I was often when I was Chief Information Commissioner, at that time this was a matter of debate. I had at that point felt that it is important for the Information Commissions as they open up to have government officials, retired government officials or former government officials heading them, because they are the ones who best understand how information is actually stored in government and therefore how to actually get access to it. Why I was selected for the particular post, I really have no idea, because I am neither a particularly eminent person nor entirely skillful, but I seem to have done all right, and I don't think I was particularly subservient to government. But nevertheless, that is a question of choice as to why the government does this. Also, you see the point that was made earlier in your commentary, that most government servants get something in government. That is not entirely true. Most
a large number do.
No, a large number, but even a larger number take up other assignments, and most of them take up assignments after retiring in government or outside government. And that, I think, it carries its own message. I suppose their experience is of value in government and also outside government. But what goes into actually appointing these people and why I was appointed, I have really no idea.
It's not a personal question. I think it's more a larger question. And Mr. Marwa, do you think that, bureaucrats, if they are retiring officially, should retire and shouldn't be taking up at least jobs that are offered by the government? Should they be heading PSUs, for instance?
It should be an exception where the suitability of the person, he's selected on the basis of his suitability, his experience, his reputation for integrity. But if the impression goes around that the selection to these coveted posts is done on the basis of favoritism, nepotism, or because of the services rendered to the political masters, then I think it will subvert the whole system.
Is that the impression you get, that that's what's happening right now over the last several years?
Well, I had an opportunity to glance at the list, and I don't want to mention the names, but some of the names which are certainly not the best names who should be given these sinecures, because that does, you see, because after all India services should be treated equally, and after retirement, if somebody is selected, there should be a gap. It shouldn't be done almost immediately. Even for joining private sector, there is a rule that there should be a gap for 2 years or so. Here also there should be a gap. But today we are seeing that a person retires today, tomorrow he is appointed to a job, and there are cases where people have gone from one commission to another commission to another commission to another commission, and it gets the impression.
Isn't that a valid concern? I'm just asking Dr. Pramod Deo here. Isn't that a valid concern that Mr. Marwa raises?
No, see, as far as the electricity law is concerned.
No, I mean, forget the electricity law. I'm just saying the big picture here.
Yes.
What he's saying about bureaucrats and being appointed by governments immediately after they retire.
Well, it will depend upon, under different dispensation, what kind of procedure you have for selection. If it is just that the government decides, it is possible that a politician feeling comfortable can appoint someone. But if there has to be a fair selection process.
You don't think that a disproportionately large number of ex-bureaucrats?
No, I will ask you the other way.
Yeah.
Because I am also on the selection committee, when it comes to the regulator's selection, when I go there, if you look at the electricity law, you have to be eminent person in the field of law, finance, commerce, etc., management. And then when you start looking, who is going to come on the salary which government offers?
Only a former bureaucrat.
Only a former bureaucrat will come. In fact, when I came here, I found with the Fixed Pay Commission, became very generous, and they said we want to attract best talent. And then they offered me 3 lakhs. And I found to my horror, I am not entitled to house in government this thing. not my own car. I had to have my own car.
So it's not hunky-dory.
It's not hunky-dory.
Okay. So Mr. Bhushan, come in on this.
You see, the thing is, I think there are two issues here which we can, there is political patronage.
Yeah.
Every government has its favorite bureaucrats, and it perpetuates them in service by, appointing them to various, commissions and authorities and, National Disaster Management Authority or UPSC or what have you. In fact, there are a lot of IAS officers after retirement are now becoming registrars of universities. Some are becoming vice chancellors, posts for which they have no qualification. Then there is bureaucratic patronage, where the IAS community perpetuates its own tribe by sort of appointing them for whatever reason, including the reason that nobody else will come at that salary.
So then, you don't buy that reason?
I don't buy that reason. You advertise and let's see how many people come. I also don't think that it's a good idea that people who have rendered service to certain families as security guards or as bodyguards should be made lieutenant governors. What is their qualification? You have a couple of such people. What is the qualification of IB chiefs to become governors? Why are policemen always employed in politically sensitive areas like Northeast? Why don't good politicians
Mr. Marwa, you were one of them. Mr. you were one of them. A former IPS officer. You were governor of Manipur.
Well, it is difficult for me to comment on my own posting. The fact remains that I was selected as a governor after 10 years by a government under which I never served. And I was not very keen to go to the Northeast, but I have a background of Northeast. I headed a police force in a northeastern state. I was with the National Police Commission where I drafted the whole security and the police system in the Northeast. So the government at that time felt that maybe in very, very difficult situation, and Manipur is the most difficult state in the Northeast, and the life there is not hunky-dory at all. And the Raj Bhavan is not the most comfortable place in Imphal. But besides, I will forget about my case, but if it is for the peer group and the government of the day to judge whether the person has the background and suitability or not. But if somebody who hasn't got the foggiest idea or the background or to a post where he is being posted, and only because the person happens to be loyal to a particular person, or he is handled sensitive post and he kept his mouth shut when wrong things were happening, then I think it will subvert the entire system. We already have now a situation where very important institutions are getting weakened, and if the whole administrative system, whether it's IAS or IPS, I'm not making a distinction, the postings to these very crucial posts is made on that basis, or that is the public perception, then I think it's a matter which the government needs to look into it, and this trend must be reversed.
So, but that subversion is already happening. You tell me, policemen who have all their life probably violated human rights, why should they be appointed to National Human Rights Commission? Why should they be considered for such posts? Why aren't human rights activists considered for the post of human rights commissioners? Bureaucrats who all their life have denied information because they know how information is stored, as he said, but they also know how not to give that information. Why should they be there? Why shouldn't journalists be there in the Information Commission? I mean, so everything has been cornered. People have got
Mr.
used
to you want to take on that's a good point.
Well, I suppose I have violated every because Vedji says that it was a sinecure. I had to work harder as Chief Information Commissioner than I've worked in any post inside government. I should not have been appointed Chief Information Commissioner because I knew how to protect information. But Ved says that perhaps I was.
No, I didn't say about that, your Vajad. I said that about some of them.
No, please. But I've always been a bit of a jabberwocky, so I've always spoken out quite openly, and I think that I don't think I succeeded in protecting.
No, but it's not about you.
But I am a bureaucrat, and I said it's a good idea to have bureaucrats.
Somebody else.
But should the Information Commission be full of ex-bureaucrats largely? It's a very skewed balance, right?
I would agree with you. Having started with that, as I said, then information commissions, and it was my recommendation also that the information commissions should now move on and incorporate more elements from others. And in fact, in the government of India, you have information commissioners. I'm not in the government of India, but in the whole of India, you have information commissioners who are from different disciplines. There are certain states in which you have no bureaucrat at all as information commissioner. Now,
no, but if 29, if out of 29 chief information commissioners in India, you have 22 who are ex-bureaucrats.
Yes. And there are some information commissions where you don't have any bureaucrat. You can yourself judge how they are working. I mean, why going to the detail?
What I would say, now let's take the infrastructure sector. We have a historical legacy that the infrastructure sector always has been with government. We always had public sector undertaking. Now, where is the expertise available?
Either is it only available with the IAS?
Not with the IAS. I am saying you take the IAS or you will have technical people. Because when you look at the composition of all these commissions which are dealing with infrastructure, say if the chairperson may be from the IAS or other service, then you will have a technical person who comes from these technical services. Now, I would put it this way. A big business house can tell that, well, I am paying you, say like 3 lakhs salary when they talk about as a big package. It's a ridiculous package. 1 crore, 2 crores is a very normal thing. Business house can tell someone that you please go as a chairperson. You will be paid whatever we are paying you, 2-3 crores. You go and work there on that ridiculous salary. That can happen. Because when we are talking about, see, like what happens.
But what about the point that Mr. Bhushan raised, that you have people who are mismatched? I mean, and he's right. I mean, why should someone who as a police officer, who may have been accused of all kinds of human rights violations, then go to the NHRC? It's
may not have been accused. I'm merely saying that,
maybe, yeah. I mean, it's it's something like that. I mean, he has a point there.
For that, I would always say that under the statute, you should have a clear selection process. Like even in the electricity law, when the Shinglu committee went into it, what they recommended was that you make it one provision that anyone who has retired from that state or who's from that state should not be appointed to that commission.
I've often wondered why Babus run Air India. I mean,
Exactly. You see,
what do they know about running an airline?
In this country, so much faith is placed in one examination, the civil service exam, that you think that is the end all and be all of judging competence. So once you get through that service, you never retire because people think you're absolutely brilliant. But actually, brilliance is outside. And that is why, there have been suggestions, for example, in diplomacy, that, get people horizontally
into the IFS, yeah. And you have a shortage.
But why not get them also horizontally? You get them in the economic ministries. Yeah. Why don't you get them in other ministries?
But you place that premium on that civil service exam.
Do it through a transparent process, not through patronage again.
But I think you raised a much wider question. In fact, the idea of retaining an elitist civil service is, in my view, wrong in a democratic country. But then you see, and after having joined these services, in fact, these have been the Alec Committee and others have actually recommended this, that you join the services, and then later on you get distributed in the different kinds of services that there are. But that's a wider question. I don't think your position in the IAS exam is taken into account in what you're offered after your retirement. In fact, I was offered a perfectly nice job as Vice Chancellor of a university, not a government university, which I was ready to take, but then I was then advised that no, there is something else that the government has in mind, and I decided that if the government wants to ask me to do something, I'd prefer to do that, because that I expected would be in the service of the country, and the service of the country has always been a priority.
Well, I think what one consensus that's very clear is that if there are individuals and individual bureaucrats who have a particular area of expertise and who can contribute, I don't think anyone can argue with their appointments post-retirement. The question is that is it happening too much, and is this political patronage then that's being taken too far? Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. I wish you all of you good luck in getting home tonight, because you're all in Delhi and I believe it's rained very heavily outside, so I think there are going to be some massive traffic jams. So good luck with that. We'll see you all tomorrow at the same time. Goodbye.
I really don't know.